Alright my friends, how you all doing, and welcome to Fan Dan Extra. For those that are regulars to Fandango, you know exactly who I am. But if you're brand new, this is the first time you're stopping by the channel, I am Dan. I will be your host here on Fandan Extra. And basically, I just want to give you a little backstory before we move on into today's episode, which is going to be the start of our Planet Zoo series. I'm really excited about this, something completely different for me to tackle on YouTube. But as I've already said, I do have another channel. It's called Fandango. You'll find all the links in the description if you're interested. That is my football related channel, and that's basically where I started on YouTube a couple of years ago. I talk all things Premier League, all things European football. We have Football Manager series on there. It's been really fun ride, but I needed a little place so that I could share with you guys some of the other stuff that I want to do. There's a lot of games that are being released. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about that's not football related and doesn't really belong on that channel, so I decided to set up this second one. So if you like the sound of that, my friends, be sure to be hitting that subscribe button, drop likes on the video and all that good stuff, all that brilliant stuff that you need to be doing on YouTube. Also, all the socials can be found in the description box. I'm in the process of creating some lower thirds that are a bit different for this channel, even though I'm using all the same socials from Fandango. It may appear really confusing, but basically I didn't want a load of different socials just for the two channels. So there you have it, my friends. But today, let's talk about today, shall we? Because this is exciting. Planet Zoo has been out for a while. I've missed the early hype train, but a lot of that is because I've been away on holiday and just haven't had the time. It's going to be very difficult balancing two channels, but I think I can do it. So my friends, today we start our Planet Zoo series. It is obviously a make-believe park. We're going to be using Sandbox to achieve it, and we're calling it Hyland Zoo and Safari Park. And basically, this is the bit now where you join me on the journey. Let's do it. So here we go, ladies and gents, the beginning of the time-lapse. Today, we are doing the entrance ticket booths and the early, part and placement of the coffee shop that's going to be in the Plaza as you walk into the main zoo. So let's give you a little backstory, because we are using Sandbox, which means everything's unlocked, unlimited money. It's not like franchise where the scenarios are sort of determined for you. So with that said, I want to create a story. I don't just want this to be me placing down pieces, creating a zoo, and there not being anything to it. So I want to share with you my inspiration. I want to share with you my ideas, and I kind of want to share with you my story for the zoo, so to speak. So first and foremost, heavily influenced by London Zoo, especially the entrance. You're probably going to see that as and when it comes to its end. One of the big reasons why it's been heavily influenced by London Zoo, very special place to me, very near and dear to my heart. Grandad used to take us there when we were kids. I am old enough to remember a time when you could ride the camels at London Zoo. Obviously, you can't do that anymore, for good reason. Shouldn't be jumping on the back of any animal, really. But yeah, that's how long ago my first visit to London Zoo was. But yeah, he used to take us there all the time. And also, one of the first dates I ever went on with my now wife was at London Zoo all that time ago, 8 years ago. So yeah, it's a really special place. We always try and go in the summer, and for a relatively small city zoo, it's a fantastic place. Lots to see, lots to do, very educational, and they're really on top of their conservation. So a real favourite of mine where the zoos are concerned. One of the other reasons I really wanted to use this, sort of as a point of interest and to kind of get some ideas from as well, is that there's a lot. London Zoo is very old, and so inside the zoo there's a lot of grade 2 listed buildings. The old penguin house is one, the old elephant enclosure, that's one. They can't be knocked down for that reason. There's also a little medical centre that's got a clock on it that we're actually going to create at some point in the series. And yeah, it's got character, and I really like that. And obviously we're going with this city zoo idea. So I just felt like it was a real great, reference point. We're not going to be copying it like for like. It is just going to be for reference. But it's a good way to see how you can maximise habitat space in a relatively small land area, I guess you could say. So yeah, London Zoo, that's going to be a real heavy influence, probably in the early episodes. And so the idea of Hyland Park, Hyland Zoo and Safari Park is based on a vast area called Hylands Park near where I live. It's a big, family park where we go for, lovely walks. We take the dogs over there for a run and stuff, and my wife and I really, really enjoy going over there. But I've always looked at Hyland Park and just thought, there's a lot of, unused and wasted area here, and how fantastic would it be if someone built a zoo on it? And so that's exactly what we're doing, but only we're taking Hyland Park from its actual setting in real life, and we're moving it into a urban sort of city surrounding, ladies and gents. So I've just basically taken my two things that I really like, combined them, mishmash, and that's where we arrive at with Hyland Zoo and Safari Park, which is the name of this fantastic zoo, or soon to be fantastic zoo. That has to be said. So the story goes that obviously, a benefactor, obviously approached Hyland Park and said, I want to build a zoo there, went through all the right channels, and it was granted, and this $1 billion idea is now going to become a zoo. And as you can see, they've got a great architect in charge as he cracks on and starts to build the entrance of the zoo. Obviously, the zoo is closed. Its grand opening isn't going to be for a while. We obviously need some animals in there, but that's basically the backstory. I really want there to be a story while we create this series. I don't just want it to be a case of me coming on screen, time lapse, wham bam, thank you ma'am, look what I made, isn't it great, let's disappear YouTube. I want there to be a story, and I want you guys to feel like you can get involved in the story. I want you guys to feel like you can you can actually sort of become part of the story, and you can share your ideas with me that end up helping this zoo become one of the best that Planet Zoo has ever seen, ladies and gents. But let's talk about what you're seeing on screen right now. As I've said, we are going to be building the entrance of the zoo today. It's heavily influenced by London Zoo's entrance, with the two spires either side. I think mine is slightly more grand in size than London Zoo's is, but I still think that it's a tasteful nod to the entrance that London Zoo has, ladies and gents. I am here, as you can see, putting up some information boards. This is a great technique, I should say, to use. Place it on the wall, and you can put education even here. It doesn't always have to be next to the habitats on the zoo. Now, obviously, I know that Planet Zoo is all about the animals, but I do just want to throw this out there, sort of a disclaimer to the series, I guess you could say, is that there's going to be no animals for at least, the first 2 or 3 episodes, unfortunately. I want to get all of the planning in place first. I think it's really important that you make sure the way that the guests find their way around the park is there, and that sort of the infrastructure is put in place. But also we need the entrances, we need the ticket booths, we need a couple of sort of things like toilets, things like restaurants, and that all put in place to make sure that the guests are happy. And also we need to get all of the staff facilities put in as well. This is going to be a realistic nod to a zoo. I want to try and go as realistic as I possibly can. I don't just want this to be sort of a fantasy type zoo where we plop in all the things that we want. So it does mean the theming, it's not going to be theme heavy, it's going to be tastefully done, I guess you could say. Obviously, because this is a nod to London Zoo, we are going to be using a lot of stuff that's very sort of Victorian looking. If anyone's been to London, you know that the architecture is fantastic, and I want to try and work as much of that into the game and into our zoo as possible. Coming away from that for a moment, I realise that this is a lot of information to take in. I'm probably chatting quite a lot of rubbish right now, but I guess we should talk about how and when we're going to upload and how it's going to work, and how I want the series to play out, basically. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This isn't me slagging off any YouTubers, but I have found from watching Planet Zoo series that a lot of people just go in, do their speed builds, do some lovely cinematic shots at the end, and that's it. what I really want for you guys to take away is that the zoo becomes one of your favourites, that you almost feel like it's a virtual experience within a zoo. So there are going to be episodes like today's where we do speed builds, and then at the end of that episode we take a look at it, a live look at it. And then away we go. But there are also going to be episodes where we appreciate the zoo, where we take a good walk around, we enjoy the animals, and in those episodes as well, we will be editing it in such a way that we will be planning out areas, what's going to go in there, and how we're going to go about doing it. So you really are going to feel as though you are joining me on this ride of a brand new zoo being built, how it's being built, and timescales on when you can expect to see certain things. Like I say, the zoo's not open. It's not going to be open for business for a while. We need to get some animals in there and get a few things finished up. But obviously in this very sort of early construction phase, you can still join me, and you can see everything that we're trying to achieve. So I am going to try and upload sort of maybe 2 or 3 times a week. You can expect at least one episode where it's a speed build episode, and then we take a look, and then there's probably going to be at least one episode where we enjoy the fruits of our labour and plan for the next big part of the zoo. You're going to see that the editing is a little all over the place, unfortunately, but a lot of that is to do with my building style. Now, it's very, very easy when you're building off camera to just, take these long pauses of 10 minutes as you procrastinate and you think to yourself, where should I go next with this? But when you're trying to do a speed build, you need to be consistently active, and that's something I noticed that I'm not. I'm also a bit erratic with my buildings concerned. I don't know if I get bored of doing the same thing for too long, but then I move on to another project before I've finished one, and I really shouldn't do that. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, slightly OCD where symmetry is concerned, so I think maybe one project at a time if we're really going to make this YouTube series work. So apologies for this first episode of my erratic building style, but when we get to the end, you'll see that we actually achieved a lot, and it looks fantastic as well, in my humblest of opinions. But you're going to just see right now, we're just placing all the struts in. This is the sort of thing that I understand that you're not going to see with a naked eye all the time, but I know it's there, and I know that then this is sort of structurally right, and that makes me happy. I know that might sound silly to some, but as I've already said, this is trying to be a realistic nod to the way buildings are put together and the way architecture looks, and the way that we want the zoo to look, basically. So it's just the way that I wanted to do it, basically, and pretty happy with how everything comes out. But as you can see, the entrance is coming along quite nicely now. Obviously we've got the 2 spires, or the sort of the chunks of the 2 spires in place. We're now just placing down this little part that the guests are going to walk under first. There's a toilet in there, and that's just for the kids to run in and have a wee as they get excited about seeing the lions. And there's going to be a little information kiosk that I've put in this side. This is going to kind of serve as sort of in our sort of makeup world, this is going to serve as sort of somewhere you could hire push chairs, buy umbrellas, that sort of stuff, to help you get around the zoo, maps and all that sort of thing. We are now coming back to these little beauties that I made. Obviously a nod to that old Victorian style that we see a lot in London, and they are going to be the supports to our roofing system. For those that maybe are new to the sort of Frontier, Planco and Planet Zoo series, the building mechanics I think are fantastic, but there are tricks and tips that you can get from other YouTubers that will probably help you a lot more than I can. Silverette done a great one on paths and how to manipulate those, but there's plenty of tutorials out there. Geekism done a great one on how to make buildings look interesting, but I will, the best I can as we go along, share my ways of doing things with you, and how I manage to achieve what I achieve in the game each and every time. A lot of this is copy and paste because it's all part of one editing group, so it's all part of one building group, which does make that easier. And so if you are making things like fences and things like that, make sure you drop a grid piece down underground and then go from there. It makes it a lot easier to copy and paste and move things around. Excuse me, apologies for that. But yeah, so Fantastic start to the entrance, as you can see. Just being really finicky now, moving things around, making sure everything's exactly where I want it. And yeah, we're pretty much there. Putting a few little bollards in. You might be thinking, why have you put a wooden bollard in there, considering that you've got all these supports already? There's method in the madness. You'll see it all come together very, very shortly, ladies and gentlemen. Today's episode is going to be a long one. I'm going to apologise in advance for those that don't really like stuff that is that long. One thing I've learned from my football channel is that people really like stuff to be around 15 to 25 minutes. I just felt like I had a bit more leeway, a bit more creative freedom, because obviously I'm trying to do a lot in a small amount of time. For those that are interested, the build time on this was around about 2.5 hours, and I still didn't get it finished, but we're going to talk about that at the end of today's episode. But yeah, it's a long time to be sitting there building something to then trying to compress into sort of 25 minutes. I'm hoping going forward the episodes will be shorter, but you know, for now, just stick with me and enjoy the ride, as I do as well. This is an example of those fence pieces that I was saying. You sink a grid piece down underground, and then from there, you can do your copy and paste in. It's easy to manipulate, and then when you come out the editing group, you can move this into place, copy and paste, all that good stuff. It's a really fantastic way of doing things, and it took me ages before I cottoned on that you could do this on Planet Coaster, which was obviously the game that Frontier created before this one. I really do feel like they've taken everything that they learned from Planet Coaster and just upped it a level in this one. You know, visually, I think that this game is so much better looking than Planco. That for me looked very cartoony, whereas this, when you get the lighting and the shadowing in certain places and the weather interacting with you know, your buildings and stuff, it just looks fantastic. It's a really beautiful looking game. So yeah, as you can see, I'm making a custom little fence here. There's no high fences in the game, unfortunately, so you do have to make them yourself, but I'm really happy with this little effort, and I like the little prints as well, the animal prints on there. And so as you can see, that's a group edited, and now we can move this into place exactly where we want it, and we can copy and paste that really easy, because we used that grid piece and made it a building group. So that's something to really think about if you want to sort of take your building skills onto another level where Planet Coaster and Planet Zoo are concerned. Now, one thing I do want to touch upon, my friends, is that I am no Silverette. I am no Rudy, delay designer, but hopefully with time I can potentially get there. They are making some fantastic stuff, and you know, they're huge sources of inspiration. If you don't know who I'm on about, do go check these people out. Geekism is one that I watch as well. I think his Planet Zoo stuff is fantastic. And they're all massive sources of sort of inspiration where Second Channel was concerned. Obviously, I'm a big fan of this sort of game, you know, Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, City Skylines. And so I really wanted to have a little place where I could enjoy all of this stuff, along with creating the football content that I do on my other channel, ladies and gents. So hopefully you will enjoy this series as much as I have enjoyed starting it, and it's just very strange to be sitting here chatting so much for so long with regards to, you know, exactly what you're doing. But there's the little bollards. That's what I meant by like the method behind the madness. I used the shapes there to put in that little mint green sort of fascia. I want to put sort of information. I want that to be like an information board type thing. I don't know how I'm going to achieve it, but I want to try if I can at all possible. We're now just going to make sort of like the fencing for the where the queue path's going to go for this information desk, where you're going to be able to rent all of your things, and in our little world anyway, and just kind of as I've said already, you can just copy and paste when you're using your building and your editing groups, and I think that this comes out very nicely. There are a few little touches I add to this entrance off camera that you'll see in the live section of today's episode, and you know, hopefully you'll be able to enjoy it in all of its glory. But as you can see, I really do think it's coming along nicely. Now, I'm doing something here. I'm placing bins in front of these bollards. You might think that was a weird place to place them. The problem you have with these games when you place path down is that the people can clip through things. Now, if you want to avoid that, the best way to do so is to place benches and bins near them, because people cannot, and by the way, when I say people, I mean the guests in the game. They can't walk through bins and they can't walk through benches. So if you really want to try to fill a space with as much path as possible, make it look realistic, but you're worried they're going to clip through things, that's a really, really good technique to use to stop that happening. And it's kind of something you have to manipulate, especially when you're creating shops that you want guests to be able to walk in and out of. And you're kind of going to see that with the skeleton of the coffee shop that we make. But now we are moving on. As I say, this is kind of coming back to what I've already said about my erratic building style. Clearly got bored of building the entrance, so now we're going to make the ticket offices. And yeah, there's going to be 4 ticket offices. We're going to use information, kiosks as a way to make this look like they're ticket offices. They'll just be closed. I see there was another YouTuber whose name I can't remember, but I see him do it, and I thought that's a really great idea, because it still gives you the vision of the ticket office. They're just clearly, obviously they're not open, and because they don't really need to be, but it just was a little great nod to make that look fantastic. Again, to make buildings look interesting, because no building is just a rectangle or a square, so to make them look interesting, use a number of different editing groups to achieve it. Obviously we're going to be using 3 here. We've got 1 ticket office, 1 is the information kiosk, and then we've just placed a wall piece on its own, and eventually when all the roof and everything's on, that will look like one building, and it's a really great way to do that. Just copy and pasting this fence. We're going to use this to make queue lines. I take the path out because, as you can see, just a perfectionist, want everything to be symmetrical and look fantastic. So yeah, just using that there, we place that down, and that's the bare bones really of the ticket offices. I use shapes to create the roofs. We drop this down just so it's all matching. They're probably going to have to be changed though, and you're going to see in the live section why. We do come back here, and again, this is a fantastic way to get some detail into your game if you're struggling with the limited amount that we've got in Planet Zoo. I will say that I don't think there's as many sort of accent pieces as maybe there should be, but you know, future DLCs might help with that, and some free updates. But what I do is I use the shapes, change the colours around, sync them in, and you're going to see we get this lovely sort of triangular mosaic design that goes all the way across, and I think it just ends up looking fantastic. And this is a great way to get some detail into your shops. One area that I really struggle with is detailing the shops, making the fascia, the front of the shop, look fantastic. This shop is unfinished even at the end of today's video, and it's because I just don't know what to do with it, and I'm really, really lost. We move it into place. Wasn't happy with where it was. We were clipping maybe not quite nicely enough where the path was concerned, and we just get this into place. We obviously then have to add a little bit of wall in a moment to make all this match up, and yeah, it's coming along nicely, as you can see in the time lapse, and I'm really, really happy with how it looks at the end. I really do hope, guys, you've enjoyed the time lapse to this point. I really hope that you're all going to jump on board, get involved with the Hyland Zoo and Safari Park as well, getting your ideas into me. This is a great time now during the time lapse to just say, basically hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. Make sure you're hitting the like button, and in the comment section below, do leave me your ideas of things you would like to see in the Hyland Park and Hyland Zoo and Safari Park. I want you guys to be as involved as possible and get immersed in this fantasy world and zoo that we are creating. We now move on to the coffee shop that I've been talking about, ladies and gents, and again we use a number of different buildings to achieve the shape that we managed to get from the coffee shop. As I've said numerous times, things aren't just rectangles and squares, they're all different shapes and sizes, and obviously you're very limited because of how you have to build on a grid system in Planet Zoo and in Planet Coaster for that matter. So a lot of rotation in different building styles and shapes is how you do it, and that's exactly what I've done. So you can kind of see the bare bones of the sort of shape that we're going with, and basically I've done this at an angle because the plaza and the pathway is going to follow that angle. We are eventually going to have a wall there, and so that basically this wasn't all square. One thing that I was very guilty of, and something that I've learned from my time playing Planet Coaster, and obviously for those that are thinking, oh, I wonder if we ever had a series. Of course not. I didn't have the second channel at the time, but used to just play it in my spare time. But the one thing I was very guilty of was not using height. So by that I mean not placing buildings higher and lower, and having hills and having paths wind up and down hills, and also the other thing that I was really guilty of as well was everything being very parallel and blocky, and I don't want that with a zoo. That's not how they work, and it's not how this is going to work. I manipulate the path here in such a nice way where we'll be able to have seats inside the coffee shop. We are going to have a bit of clipping where that wall's concerned, but nothing a bench can't solve. And we just finished this building off now, and basically we get the shape of the building. We don't get the full works. We don't get a roof on or anything like that. You're going to see it in the live section. That's probably going to be saved for next episode. But you can see the general shape that we're going with. And I think that it's going to look quite nice there. We now move on to probably the second to last thing in today's episode. It's a little ATM station. It's very easy to just plop these ATMs against the wall, or I should say cash machine if you're watching in England. It depends where you're from, really. Plop them against the wall and away you go. Just ignore it. But no, I wanted to create a little fascia for the ATM. I wanted to put a little canopy over the top, which we custom build as well. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's custom built in this series because there's just not enough stuff in the game that is going to help me achieve what I want to. And as I've said, realism is the ultimate goal of this series as well. I want the zoo to look, feel and run as realistically as a zoo would in real life, and so we're going to have to create a lot of stuff. And this little ATM station I was really happy with. Anyone that goes to the cash point, that they're not just up against the wall, they're sunk into the wall, and using the shapes, which have become one of my favourite things. I will say that they've actually become one of my favourite things, the shapes. We managed to achieve that. I'm not sold on the sign. I'm going to throw this out there now. I may create something different. We don't put this awful dollar sign up, I will say that much. We place something else that's a little more tasteful and a little more in keeping with the Victorian style of architecture in the in England. It looks nice, but so limited on the editable signs that we've got in the game, and hoping with some DLC we'll get some more stuff that we'll be able to use. But it serves its purpose. Maybe it just needs sinking in a bit further. Maybe I'm just not happy with the placement of it right now, but when I was watching the time-lapse back, I was like, oh, it all looks really nice apart from the sign. And you're probably all going to be sitting there yourself thinking, oh yeah, it's not very nice now, and it's just me convincing you. Finicky, messing around, making sure it all looks really nice. I love the way that looks. We're now going to build this little canopy over the top though, ladies and gents, so people don't get wet when they're getting the cash out, and so that people can't peek and look at each other's pinkos, because that's something that there are some horrible people that do. We're just placing all this in, making it look as realistic as possible, and I use these nice little planks to create this little angled shade. I really like this. It almost looks like sort of shutter type shades and stuff you can get in your house by the time I'm finished with it. But really like it. Just something that I thought, let's try an angle. A lot of square and rectangle shapes, unfortunately, in this early stage of the build where the entrance was concerned, and so wanted to get some nice angles into the build if I could. After this, we finish off the roof and then we go into the live section. Still got a little while of the time lapse left. I'm kind of running out of things to talk about. A shameless plug to the other channel though, in case you are watching and you are interested in football. Fandango is my football channel where we talk Premier League, European football, and I have a number of Football Manager series that are about to drop on the channel in the next week or so. So do feel free to go and check that channel out should you want to. I don't know what I was thinking really, having two channels. I really didn't like this wood, just to jump in there. It looked like a like a pen that you would keep sheep in. So instead we went with some rope. But yeah, I don't know what I was thinking really, starting a second channel. I'm going to be very, very busy now, but a lot of it is I just love creating, and why not share it with the masses, why I create these, fantasy worlds, and why I love editing and doing all that stuff anyway, so why not just share it with all you guys. We do just change the colour up ever so slightly on the ATM. The white was really just not agreeing with me at all. So yeah, this mint green is sort of like probably the unofficial colour of the zoo, because I've used quite a lot of it. But yeah, now we're into the last section, ladies and gents, and it is the roof to the Spires. This is semi-custom built. We're using pieces in the game, but I've had to put them in a way so that we've had to manipulate them to work the way we wanted to. So we use these edge pieces first to get our general square. We plop a few roof pieces on top, but then to create the trim, we've had to create another 2 or 3 different editing groups, and then we push them into place to achieve what we want. So as you can see, we go up to the top of that, and it looks quite nice. You're all saying to yourself, yeah, it's quite nice, I like that. But it needed something else. It needed another level of roofing to really take it up a notch. So this is what we did. We basically created another editing group, changed the little grid pattern, and you're going to see it really does work, and is a fantastic way of really making the most of the pieces and using your sort of creative juices to get them to where you want them. Had a little problem lining this one up, but eventually they all slotted into place quite nicely. Flip reverse this, put that in place, a couple of pieces needed, and the roofs are done. Fantastic stuff, look amazing, really happy with it. And yeah, we are pretty much done now for the time lapse. I do hope you've enjoyed that, ladies and gents. I know it was a long time lapse, hopefully it'll be a bit shorter next time. But yeah, just enjoy the final stages of us putting this together, and I'll see you real soon in the live section. And so here we are, ladies and gents. This is our little live section of today's episode. So I do just want to add, obviously there's a little camera on your screen now. You can see my beautiful face, or ugly mug, however you want to look at it. This is how I'm going to do it in future. Obviously the bit at the beginning of today's episode is a one-off. I just wanted to introduce myself, as this is the first video on this brand new second channel of mine. So yeah, story and what we've achieved so far is what we're going to talk about right now. So obviously, as I've already said, Hyland Zoo and Safari Park is the name of this beautiful thing. It's based on a very huge space called Hyland Park near where I live, and I always think to myself, there's so much room here, you could put a zoo in it, and that's exactly what we're sort of going to do. But at the same time, we're taking Hyland Park from its, rural setting in Essex and moving it to the city. Yes, very strange, I know. But yeah, we're going to make a city zoo because I'm not sure how big we can really make this before the frames drop. Planko used to be a nightmare for that, and I have a very high-end PC as well, but we'll just have to wait and see. So with that being said, I thought to myself, well, how can we get around this monstrosity, which is the people spawner? It's a train station. I think I'm going to delete this front piece off and sort of make it look like a London Underground tube station. I think that's the best thing for it. We're going to put sort of pathways here and then fill all this sort of stuff in. I might even do the front of some houses. I think that could be quite a good little look. And then, yeah, it makes it feel like it's in a, suburban setting. Urban setting, not suburban. Wow, get it right, Dan. Yeah, and then obviously little zebra crossing and the foliage I did off cam. That you can basically achieve by just sinking a wall piece in, the grid piece, and then getting your shapes. And yeah, I think it looks really good actually. And then done a load of foliage work. I wanted it to look quite wild, and a few tropical plants thrown in there as well. Beautiful statue in the middle of a stag. We get deer in Hyland Park here near where I live, and we get deer quite a lot in this part of Essex. I just felt that was a nice little nod to that. And then, yeah, we move on, ladies and gents, and this is what we achieved, basically, in today's episode. Now, I know a lot of you are probably looking at it thinking, oh, it's not finished. It really doesn't look finished. It's not finished. I apologise for that. But had I finished it, then the episode would have run even longer. You know, it's probably going to be a 40-minute episode, which is not what I want to be throwing out every single time. I want to get them down to 25 minutes max if I can, because I can't see that anyone's going to want to watch a really, really long episode like that of me just procrastinating and building stuff like this. But yeah, I think it's turned out really, really, really nice. Very close to sort of what London Zoo's got. These are slightly bigger than that. The rooms are slightly different. I've added some stuff in here that isn't at London Zoo, but like I said, it was loosely based on that entrance. But I've always been a big fan of the entrance. It's not garish, it's not over the top. I've always been a big fan of it, and obviously I just think from this level, you know, from where the guests are going to walk across from that, I think it looks fantastic. Started to add some plants to it. I think that just adds so much character. We're going to put a little lean-to on the front as well. I think I might build that off camera, and when we come back next episode, that'll all be done. I might finish the entrance basically, and I might finish all of the walls as well on the front, and I may do the little waterfall / gardening pieces that I want to put in these two gaps as well. So this front section will probably be done when we come back next episode. So let's talk next episode on what we want to achieve next time. So I want to get the ticket booths all finished off. Basically, these are all closed. I wanted to achieve an aesthetic look. So as I've already said, I want this to be a realistic zoo. So aesthetically, this is just pleasing on the eye. I've got to sort the roofs out because obviously I've put all of the buildings in now. And then I want to get the coffee shop finished as well next episode. Get the wall pulled round here, and then pulled here, and get an exit sign made. And then we can really get cracking from there, ladies and gents. So this is the way out. This is going to be the way you get out of the zoo and go back home. As I've already said, there has to be an emergency exit on the entrance as well. And that's why I basically put this wall down. Exits there, boom, straight out. And there's the loo as well, in case your child's about to crap itself or have a wee or whatever because of the sheer excitement of seeing all the animals. But yeah, I just feel like next episode we'll get this backlot of the entrance finished, and then after that, then we can really think about our first animal, and that is where you guys come in. Now I've got ideas for the orangutan habitat, lion habitat, and gorilla habitat, but other than that, I'm really open to ideas. So if you've got source material, if you've got a habitat you like in particular, if you've got if you've got holding pens, all that good stuff, anything that you really, really like that you'd like to see me try to recreate and place into Hyland Zoo, let me know in the comment section below. And also let me know what animal you would like to see go into the zoo first time around as well, my friends. But I think that's going to be it for today's episode. Let's just take another look at the beautiful entrance. It's not quite finished, but this is what we managed to achieve. This is what everyone's going to see, ladies and gents. Let's go down. So this is what everyone's going to see when they come out of the tube station. Oh, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. That right there, that's a screenshot. I've had a lot of fun making this. Be sure to join me next episode, my friends, when we get the coffee shop and the ticket offices all done and dusted. I look forward to seeing all your suggestions on what animals you would like to see, maybe from episode 3. If you've not done so already, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the video as well, do all that good stuff. But until next time, my friends, make sure you get an extra, and I'll see you next time.